May Jesus Christ be praised, and onward with Mary. Good evening, my dear children. Welcome back to this moment of catechetical reflection titled Satan in the Vatican. I will delve into my reflection tonight in 3 stages. In a first introductory stage, I will say that Satan is in the Vatican, not simply on the basis of facts like we always do. Tonight, I will do it based particularly on content. The second part will relate to the most powerful lobbies present in the Vatican, which are working undisturbed to destroy Roman Catholicism, according to the third secret of Fatima that has announced all of this. These 3 lobbies are, without mincing words, the ecclesiastical Freemasonry, that is cardinals and bishops at the service of powerful Masonic lobbies. The second being the Satanist lobby, which places together the esoterics, the so-called spiritists, and all those who adore Satan, dressed in church regalia. And finally, the third, the gay lobby, that is not spoken of, but is probably the most powerful at this moment, according to the ranting declarations of Cardinal 𝐥'Ž'Aquel'H, Cardinal Archbishop of Luxembourg, 64 years old, nothing less than the President of the European Bishops. The more these individuals become presidents of a vaunted office, the more they lose their heads. As we will see now, he is Speaker of the Synod on Synodality, which on October 24th, 2022, has released an absolutely unacceptable declaration with the general silence of everyone. The third part will be about the most important, the applications of the satanic demolition project of the Church of Rome. Obviously, we will arrive at our own conclusions. Let's start with the introduction. There's irrefutable fact, my dear children, irrefutable, that is, for 9.5 years, almost 10, there is a false pope on the throne of Peter. It's an irrefutable fact that in the Catholic Church, for 9.5 years, there has been a system of confusion, a loss of general orientation, even knowing that many problems already existed. No one can hide this fact, which has, as an official point of origin, the same false pope. And here is what no one is willing to say until the end. In a moment I will tell you. With the pretext of change, a word substituted to update, and of opening towards the spirit of the world, of course, towards dialogue. You will hear in a moment the unacceptable declarations of Cardinal 𝐥'Ž'Aquel'H, this mantra for change, dialogue with the world, namely the fact that we must be open to novelty, that the Church is very behind. It is not true that there is black and white. There are intermediate zones. These are Bergoglio's phrases and of his closest collaborators. It is not all white, but also black. Not everything is black, but also white. This is dogmatic relativism, not absolute morality. Naturally, all of this brings us officially to see that heresy is for the first time the official doctrine of the Catholic Church. Here's a starting point of my very burdensome reflection. One could say, but we had Arianism. Now, Ario was a simple priest, also quite clumsy, like Enzo Bianchi, correct? He had no qualifications. It is true that he engaged the emperor and everyone else. In Rome, there was Pope Sylvester, who was declaring doctrine was such, and there was no deviating. Today, for the first time, this official doctrine, that is heresy, is official, because there is an impostor on the throne of Peter, placed there by these very powerful lobbies, who have infiltrated the hierarchy of the Church, according to the words of Padre Pio and Father Gabriele Amorth in 1960, who quoted You know, Gabriele, Satan has introduced himself in the church, and soon he will come and govern a false church. A false church, end quote. Heresy is official doctrine. Today, the heretic is a true believer, and the real believer has become a heretic. So, to be clear in a few words, the heretic has become a true believer. It does not matter if you do not believe in the virginal conception of Mary. It does not matter if you do not believe that Jesus Christ is God. Do you understand this? It does not matter if you do not believe in the real presence of Christ. If you are 4 times divorced, 8 times remarried, but you can receive the Eucharist, it does not matter. It does not matter at all. What matters is that you are a true believer. Then you are in favor of mass immigration, for vaccines, for syncretism, against sovereignty, and that you agree to the 2030 agenda. This is the orientation of today's official believer. On the contrary, the believer that does not go along with these novelties, these new heretical styles that, I repeat, Bergoglio has officially introduced into the church, this believer has become heretical. I'm here to render testimony to this. There exists an irrefutable fact. Satan is in the Vatican, and tonight I will not tell you that he is in the Vatican because they celebrated a black mass or have invoked evil spirits. No. Today I want to speak as a theologian. Satan is in the Vatican. Satan is seated on the throne of Peter. This must be said. This must be yelled out. This admonishment must be given to save souls. I say this with great pain to all who in the church, like the 𝐸𝐴𝐻, and I could make an unending list from the Cardinals Mueller and Burke, Cardinal Sara to Bishop Schneider, from the director to the president of Faith and Culture, who many times laments the crisis of the church. But whomever says Pope Francis is not the Pope is a fool and a con man. Example is the popular theologian of the moment, pontifical preacher, if I have understood correctly, that young one, Father Luigi Maria Epicoco, who, for example, look at the weirdness, yells and officially states in his profile, quote, "Whomever says hell doesn't exist, that the mercy of God always forgives, that person is in error." Close quote. Excuse me, this is what the Pope that promotes you tells you. I will not stand for this hypocrisy. I will proclaim it, sacrificing my life. This is satanic hypocrisy. I will tell you more. Bergoglio is very happy with this rabble. Happy because the aim of Freemasons is to have them yell, but also render them completely irrelevant. Does anything change when they yell? Is there anyone that besides Father Minutella and the Marian sodality is doing something concretely? No. They yell, they scream, they talk, they write, they denounce, but always in union with our Pope Francis. It is exactly what the Freemasons thought. In other words, yell anyway, you are irrelevant. Careful, these 𝐸𝐴𝐻 that go to Mass in union with Pope Francis, that say the things that Father Minutella says, but who stop at the edge and do not realize that Bergoglio and the false church is reducing them to irrelevancy. This was the initial goal, to guarantee the alliance with the devil, seated on the throne of Peter, and then let them say whatever they want. We will confine them to the ghetto anyway. Burke is himself in the ghetto. Am I wrong? Can the church be saved with the continual interviews that he does? Who is Mueller? Who follows him? What does Mueller do for souls? Where is Cardinal Burke? What is Schneider up to? Going around the world celebrating traditionalist masses with the great mantle, if ever he wears one, and that is all? Is it this that saves the church? These individuals say, you must obey the Pope anyway. We have had times like these. No, there has never been a time like this. I'll challenge anyone to demonstrate that there has been in the history of the Church a period so long in which error and heresy come from the throne of Peter. It has never happened. Never. At least not officially. At least not officially. So, this is the first fundamental aspect. I would like to send an invitation to those who are forcing themselves into total irrelevance, because Bergoglio and the Masons, the powerful Masons who are in the Vatican, already reached their objective. Keep talking anyway. This way we will identify you and will place you to the side. What is Father Livio Fanzaga obtaining at Radio Maria? What are these priests obtaining in the social networks, which anyway, in order not to have problems, now we're doing something else? They foul you. That is, Jesus said, go and preach to everyone. No, you have to subscribe to this channel. I need to see who you are. Is that okay? If I'm sure that you will not give me problems, I will let you in, and then I will make you part of my doctrine. Is this what is written in the gospel? Did Jesus say perhaps, file the elect? These individuals create their own chapels, their own initiatives, their own things, and the church is precipitating into chaos. There hasn't been a common response. There hasn't been one. A common response that, on the other hand, has come from these three powerful lobbies. I know what I'm risking. But since then, they have taken away my... I would like to find someone on this planet, someone who has risked and has paid as high a price as I have. 2 excommunications. I will yell this so that even you who are close to me, I will not forget it. Do you think that I have digested this? 2 excommunications, one more than Luther. I've never done anything. I challenge anyone. I haven't said anything against sound Catholic doctrine. Oh, but they blackmail you. If you tell the truth is only one, that Bergoglio is not the Pope. He's placed there by Masons. And he's the author, the director, the headmaster of Satan in the Vatican. If we do not say this, it is like the exorcist. Like one time I remember, an exorcist in Medjugorje, very young. That poor guy, he was there trying to send away the devil. He was not doing the declamatory formula. Quote, Satan, I command you. Close quote. No, because as we say in Sicilian, si scantava. He was afraid. And the devil was laughing. He was laughing hard, and the devil was laughing until an old priest arrived, who was not an exorcist. And he saw what the young priest was not doing, so he asked him, Father, have you recited the formula? And the formula, Satan, I command you in the name of the church and by the sacred office that has been conferred to me by the bishop, to leave. He stated, if I don't see it, it's because, if I don't say it, it's because I don't have the energy to say it. But Father, I will bless you. Don't worry, say it. Well, look, as soon as he recited the formula, the devil went away. Here the formula is only one that should be recited in the Catholic Church, because Satan can leave once and for all. It is to say altogether in a loud voice, Bergoglio, you are not the Pope. Otherwise, these people are schizophrenic, because the 𝐸𝐴𝐴 know as well as all these individuals who talk on social networks, on television, and so on. Then they denounce the problem, but they never go to the root. These 3 powerful lobbies are the ecclesiastical Freemasons. Cardinals they have paid to be cardinals, and are, either they pay to have the title of cardinal, and so they enter into the conclave and obtain influence in this way, governing the church, as the conclave is obviously the most important thing. Or they are promoted, we can say, sponsored by the powerful elite. And so we see the cardinals become personalities, as I will now tell you, who openly denounce heresy and who are openly heretics. But who do they refer back to? Well, they cannot refer back to the gospel, because Jesus has never said that who takes an adulteress can receive communion. Jesus says this in Matthew chapter 19, verse 9. So then it is Pope Francis. Read the interview of Cardinal Jean-Claude Horlick. He cites Pope Francis. In order to give communion to divorced and remarried couples, in order to bless gay couples, he cites Pope Francis, not the Bible, because the Bible states the contrary. And I say to you, the project is that of destroying the Catholic Church, destroying it from the inside, destroying it, changing its framework, destroy it, trying in every way possible, and to render it finally the way that the enemies of the Church have always envisioned it. Tonight, I will not talk to you about Pachamama. It is well known that Bergoglio has placed Pachamama in the Vatican. For me, it is very scandalous, for example, as I've been told, in Austria, I believe it was either Austria or Germany, at a conference held by Monsignor Schneider, Athanasius Schneider. A priest raised his hand and said, Your Excellency, everything that you say is good, but it was it not Pope Francis, the one who placed Pachamama in the Vatican? And the images are shocking. It is a truly idolatrous liturgy that has never occurred before. The answer from Monsignor Schneider was, but it wasn't him. It was his collaborators. So then, there's nothing we can do with these people. Whoever remains Catholic, if they lean on these individuals, is destined to irrelevancy. This is the time to take sides. I'm telling you this tonight. One of our most solemn nights. Either you say that Bergoglio is not the Pope, or you risk eternal damnation. I'm telling you this, because we do not play games with the Lord. Whoever is with Bergoglio is with the devil. Practicing Catholics are scandalized. Father Minutella has said that in the Eucharist there is Satan. Father Minutella says that the Masses are not valid. He is a heretic. He is the Antichrist. Then someone makes them notice. But look, in any case, Bergoglio is not in a much better condition. But he hasn't fallen into formal and substantial heresy. So then, my dear children, whoever is with Bergoglio and whoever goes to Mass in union with Pope Francis, except for the little old lady in her 90s who doesn't know anything, but who is formally justified, but substantially she also is in communion with the devil. Whoever is with Pope Francis does not belong any longer to the Catholic Church. Understand this clearly. Father Minutella has very little time and he's yelling this out. Whom is with Bergoglio is not in the Catholic Church. Whoever is in union with the so-called Pope Francis is part of the false church of Satan and no longer part of the Catholic Church. I'm not talking about Pachamama, of the lunches held in churches. In a little while, we will show you the video of the lunch services in churches. My dear children, I'm not talking about all the statements and all the denials. I'm not talking about the priest who celebrates Mass on a floating mattress at a beach, or the cyclist priest who celebrates Mass at Mazara del Vallo under a tree, dressed in a cycling outfit, who puts a few lemons on a makeshift altar while the sacred hosts are blown away by the wind. I'm not talking about this. These actions speak for themselves. Then the blind who do not want to see are all on their own. This evening I would like to talk to you about the content. What is it that keeps these three powerful lobbies in the Vatican so united? That is, the Freemasons, the Satanists, and the gays. When I say gays, I would like to underline something, because they are very disgraceful. Not the gays, but these Masons that are at the helm of power. Will my gay brothers give me permission to say it? My beloved gay brothers, I say that some of you here are looking at me strangely. I'm very serious. My beloved lesbian sisters, to whom I will never be able to give a blessing at the altar. I would lose myself, and they would also lose themselves. So, do not give a blessing. Like these cursed ones say, it isn't not loving them or throwing them out. It means telling them, look, God does not want this. As Saint Maria Goretti says, when her assassin wanted to violate her and possess her, and while he was stabbing her, she was yelling, God does not want this. He does not want this. God does not want it. She died a martyr because of this. Tonight, I will tell you right now where the satanic matrix is in the Vatican. I will tell you in advance. Are there blessings for same-sex people? Is there in the gospel, in the Bible? Is it written anywhere that God approves of same-sex unions? Is it written somewhere? I don't believe so. We find the opposite written. That is, that it is sin against nature and it offends God. It is also stated in the Catechism of St. Pius X, who defines this one, of the sins that yell vindication in front of God. It is also said in the Catechism of the Catholic Church of 1992, so I'm anticipating this, when Cardinal Hollerich arrives, one of the potential future popes, they will fight to the death among them. Hollerich with the other Italian, I do not remember his name, the Italian president, Zuppi. Hollerich says, but we have to open up. Now I would read it to you. We need to go towards young people who are different, because then they will look at us very strangely. This is Satan, because to defy God and to disprove his word, we should not be with this scum. One more instant. With this black corsair cardinals of the faith. Pirates of the spirit they are. Pirates of the spirit, because it is written in the Bible that God does not want this. It is only Satan that defies God. And they know it, and do it with the pretext of creating change. They say churches are empty, we will be a minority church. We need to open up to the young generation. Who is it that's making them adhere to this? Is it not the so-called Pope Francis? Who am I to judge a gay person? You are the Pope, or you should be. Thank God that you're not, because if you were the Pope and you said this, then Roman Catholicism would be finished. These three powerful lobbies have a glue that keeps them together. It is the theological semantic approach. The theologic semantic approach, which keeps them together, incredibly, an exponent of the LGBT and gay agenda, and also keeps them together, the Freemasons and the Satanists, in different ways. That is theological modernism. There is a glue that keeps them together. And it is exactly that of defying God. Satan defies God, you know. These are at the service of Satan. They are in the Vatican. So when I tell you that Satan is in the Vatican, maybe tonight you were waiting for me to show you an image or tell you about an episode. No, I'm telling you about theological content to tell you that there is Satan. Where there is heresy, there is Satan. Here, this was the entire introduction. I've also spoken to you about the first part, to tell you the truth, when I have already announced the existence of these three lobbies. These three very, very powerful lobbies. If you would ask me, according to you, Father Minutella, tonight that I talk freely, which one is the most dangerous among the three lobbies? I tell you, it is the gay lobby, more than the Masonic one. I believe so. They're pressing. Soon we will see gay and lesbians at the altar receiving a blessing. Belgian bishops have already written a blessing, complete with liturgical formulas, to bless gay and lesbian couples. But don't worry, in the meantime, in Gricignano and the 𝐓𝐿𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐵 they don't realize this. It is not Pope Francis, poor man. He is a victim of the system. Tell me if we can go on like this. Do not remain one more instant with Bergoglio. He is the devil seated on the throne of Peter. If no one says this, Father Minutella will say it until he has breath at his disposal. But now, because I don't want to remain on the plane of suppositions, as some may think, and it is this that will infuriate my enemies, because declarations that are yelled out in this way still remain in suspense, correct? Now I'll give you the proof. I will bring proof. Good then. Since the time that Bergoglio has ascended to the throne of Peter as a usurper, because the Pope, according to the laws of the Church, still remains Pope Benedict XVI, deceit has substituted clarity. Is this all clear? The deceit of the mind, I would say, mainly the deceit of consciences, has substituted the expository clarity of the magisterium. In other words, why does the magisterium exist? The word magisterium comes from the Latin magister, that is, it means teacher. Therefore, the Pope, it is referencing the teacher, who is the Pope, Petrus Romanus, the Pope, correct? Who teaches us, for example, on a particular subject that arises from time to time in the history of the Church. The Pope is the one who says for us. He's the one who has the last word. Once they would say, Roma locuta, causa soluta. Correct? Right then, or maybe in another way, but I will not see it. Therefore, deceit has substituted clarity. I'll give you the proof. I'll give you 3 proofs. Otherwise, tonight we'll never finish. Pay attention. We'll start with the resonant theme, the one that, let's say, Bergoglio has presented at the beginning as Pope of the reform of Holy Communion for divorced and remarried individuals. You know that in 2016, the Synod on the family took place. Before that, In 2014, there was a synod on the family, right after the departure of Benedict XVI. As anticipated by the norms, Bergoglio as a pope always should write, as a pope must do, the so-called post-synodal exhortation. In other words, the synodal fathers get together, they discuss, but the one to give the final word and to clarify all opinions and proposals and to provide the final orientation is the Roman pontiff. All here so far? Therefore, each time a synod is over since the beginning of its existence, and unfortunately, Paul VI has instituted the synodal criteria. Each time there is, let's say, this exhortation that the Pope writes to say, this is the situation, things are this way, great. There has been much discussion on irregular couples. In other words, on couples not married in the church who therefore live together as well as on divorced and remarried individuals. Up until that point, the church has taught using Familiaris Consortio by John Paul II from 1981, number 83, which states that Holy Communion is not possible for divorced and remarried individuals. Not because they are second-class Christians, nor because they are destined to hell. The Pope has not stated this. Someone has written this to me recently. So then, according to you, Giovanni Falcone, who was living with his partner, is in hell? It's nothing to do with that. The church says it to guarantee the moral order. And because an individual remarried in the church with the characteristic of indissolubility has left his wife or her husband and has gone with another, and until the time he goes with another, even so, this is quite significant, he cannot receive the Eucharist. I say this, or the Pope does also. Does the Church say this? The Church says this. But pay attention. It is not enough. The Church states that on the basis of what Jesus Christ says, sacred Scripture is defined in theology as norma normans non normata. That is, law that dictates law and is not subject to law by anyone else, because the Bible is the Word of God. So let's ask sacred Scripture, Matthew chapter 19, verse 9. Anyone. These are the Christ's words, even if at the time there was no tape recorders. The sublime Jesuit superior will forgive us if we still consider these words normative. But Satan is there. Do you understand? To disprove Christ in order to quote Pope Francis. Have you realized this or not? I say, have you realized this, that these individuals quote Pope Francis, but not Jesus Christ? And they cannot quote Jesus Christ because Pope Francis announces the gospel that is not Jesus Christ's gospel. This is openly against that of Jesus Christ. Matthew chapter 19, verse 9, whosoever shall put away his wife, except be for the cause of fornication, and shall marry another, commits adultery. That is, it is mortal sin. Do you agree? If you have not swallowed or fried your brain, one time an individual said to me, Father, I agree with you in everything, but how can I not go in my parish? I play the organ. I am vice president of the parochial pastoral council. Go then and do whatever you want. You know the truth. You decide. I would stay home then. I would stay home in order to not be with the church. That's hypocritical. The church has always taught that we do not go to Mass with heretics. With heretics. Then forgive me. There are these hypocrites that say, yes, Father Minutella is right, but heresy has not been declared yet. In other words, there hasn't been a cardinal that has said this. So then I'll give you an example. Let's suppose that I have a brain cancer, and I have headaches, I have vertigo, and then I go get a checkup. On the contrary, I decide not to go for a checkup because I'm afraid that they will tell me I have a tumor. I don't have a tumor. And there is no doctor that will tell me you have a tumor, because there is no doctor telling me that I have a tumor. That tumor is not there, correct? The tumor is nonetheless there. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? It is useful that these individuals wait for someone that would tell you that there is heresy. Heresy is here, and that's that. It's a tumor. It's a cancer in the church. So Jesus says, whoever shall put away his wife, this is the first of the three applications. Here we're trying to value the diversity and the differences. Whoever shall put away his wife and shall marry someone else commits adultery. Adultery is a mortal sin, correct? It is one of the 10 commandments. But if one encounters Jesus, the commandments are not absolute. But if one encounters Christ, the commandments are not absolute. Is that right? And this is beautiful. It's the voice of the serpent and people going after it. Better for those who go after it. At least they think that they're in the right. The most disgraced, and there's a lot of them, are the 𝐴𝐴, who say, he makes mistakes, but he is the Pope. He makes mistakes, but we must wait for someone who will say that he's a heretic. I believe that who commits adultery touches one of the 10 commandments. Therefore, there is the so-called matter, the grave matter. Grave matter, yes. Bergoglio writes, amoris tristitia, with which he dismisses in a very subtle way the official heritage. This is why I'm revealing the deception to you. This is where I say that Satan is in the Vatican. Deception that substitutes expository clarity of the magisterium, and at a certain point, what does Bergoglio do? He writes a post-synodal exhortation, Amoris Laetitia, and says, in some cases, we can also think about the sacraments. There are 400 pages of a horrible, false, hypocritical, and deceptive document. And we have not understood if Pope Francis was opening up to divorced and remarried individuals or not. And this is not of little importance, my dear children. It is not of little importance. The betting race has started. Very soon, the English bookies will not be interested in the World Cup of soccer in order to, that there are bets that are being made on who wins and loses at the World Cup of soccer. No, now they will be interested in what Pope Francis wanted to really say, because it hasn't been explained. It is so, it's total chaos. Total chaos has ensued in the church. I list evident things that nobody else talks about, that nobody says. And then Father Minutella is said to be crazy, as Monsignor 𝐥'Answen mentioned. Maybe the time of telling the truth is the time to be considered really crazy. The bishops in the Church of Poland say no communion to the divorced and remarried, because Jesus Christ in the Gospel said so, and so on and so forth. Thank God. They say he has said this. The Church with the familiaris consortio. If they live, more uxorio, as a wife, but without being married. In any case, all those things. But the German bishops, who are close to Poland, say communion can be given to the divorced and remarried because Pope Francis makes us understand that we must accompany, we must discern, and all those things. Also, in Canada and the rest of the world, there has not been an official common rule in existence any longer. In some, the Masons, the gays, and the gay lobbies, do you understand? They are working to divide us. And maybe Father Minutella has arrived in order to warn people. They have torn me apart. Not only Bergoglio's supporters, but also the 𝐴𝐴 have chewed me to bits. They have torn me apart because I yell the truth. But it doesn't end there, because at one point, 4 cardinals started writing to Pope Francis, who is the Pope of Dialogue, He is the Pope of Dialogue. He is the one who talks about the Church of Dialogue, a church that doesn't want to have walls. It doesn't want to have walls, but bridges instead. Great then. The 4 cardinals, who are Brandmüller, Caffarra, Meissner, and Burke, write a concerning letter to the Holy Father. Dear Pope Francis, you have written this exhortation. Maybe there is starting to be some confusion is starting to ensue in the Church, because we cardinals know that in one nation they bestow the blessing, in another nation they do not. Therefore, we need a common rule like there has always been. Could you receive us so that we can clarify a bit? And if you cannot receive us, can you please answer these questions of ours? He has never received them, nor answered their questions. Don't you find this very serious? I don't find it serious. I find it very serious. That would have been enough. I've always said that I have celebrated for a couple of years in union with Pope Francis, but I do not feel guilty. What do I know about it? On the contrary, I feel honored, because of the fact that when I understood the truth, then I said, that's enough. And a modus laetitia has been there. It has been, how should I say, a decisive step. Good, but at a certain point, the deception needed to become official doctrine. So the bishops from Argentina, the Argentinian bishops, sent a letter to the Holy Father, Francis, dated September 5th, 2016, that is after a few months from the publication of a modus laetitia. And when Bergoglio did not answer the cardinals, he in turn answers the Argentine bishops. Claro que sí, se habla español. Of course we speak Spanish. What do I know, right? They are Argentinians like him. Or maybe this was his whole thing. This whole thing was organized the way I believe. Holy Father, we bishops from Argentina have decided to bestow Holy Communion to divorced and remarried individuals. This is terrible, terrible and terrible. The gospel does not allow this. And there, Satan is in the Vatican. A satanic doctrine has imposed itself because Satan attacks the gospel, which is what he wants to do. They are defying God. What do you say, Pope Francis? Are we doing a good thing or not? Pope Francis answers them. Not to the four cardinals. To the four cardinals, just think, for cardinals, he did not answer them with a single syllable. He answers the Argentine bishops. And what does he answer? Yes, it is exactly what I was thinking. They are not words of Pope Francis. There are no other possible words of Pope Francis. And there are four poor brothers who feel they are theologians without having a piece of paper. And they write, but Pope Francis has never said this in the same way that heretic Father Minutella yells out to bestow Holy Communion on divorced and remarried individuals. This is ignorant, it's presumptuous, it's specious. They should stay quiet. As I pay with my blood, what about them? Pope Francis, there are no other possible interpretations. What does that mean? That all those who think that I, Pope Francis, do not want to give communion to divorced or remarried individuals, they are making a mistake. I couldn't write it officially, as I have to be very wise, but I want communion for divorced and remarried individuals. He writes this to the Argentinian bishops. Someone could say, yes, but it was a declaration among friends. Oh no, Bergoglio is sly because with the file of October 2016, he has planned to insert this answer in the 𝐷 𝐴𝐻𝐻 𝐶𝐸𝐵, which constitutes a clear official investiture. Do you send these maneuvers? I write the letter. I don't say it in a clear way. I only allow it to be gleaned, and I wait until they ask me. But they need to ask me, the friends of the shop. The church has reduced itself to being our little shop. They don't answer the cardinals. We will come to an agreement with the Argentine bishops. They ask me after a little while, as there is confusion, and I say, there are no other possible interpretations. Let's insert this into the 𝐷 𝐴POSTOLICE SEDIS. Therefore, Bergoglio has authorized the Holy Communion to divorced and remarried individuals. Question to the jerks and bigots among us, among the ranks of which I place myself first. Can a pope do this? That is, I'm asking you this. If you don't want to lose your soul, can you follow a pope? I say this to the priests, because there are so many who follow me. Can you follow a pope who officially authorizes Holy Communion to be given to divorced and remarried individuals? Go follow him. But you are against the gospel. You are against the gospel. Because Jesus has said once and for all, whoever repudiates his wife and marries another commits adultery. Adultery is one of the sins. It is among the 10 commandments. Therefore, it is a mortal sin. You cannot receive the Eucharist except for when, like John Paul II stated, the couple lives as brother and sister, and they do not consummate a carnal union. This is the first of the applications I'm telling you, related to content. That is because many times I talked about the facts. But we need also content, and I'm speaking as a theologian. When I say that Satan is in the Vatican, I say it as a theologian. As a theologian, I tell you, Satan is in the Vatican, because if it has become official doctrine in the 𝐷 𝐴POSTOLICE SEDIS, the active bestowing of communion to divorced and married individuals, this is a church that goes against Jesus Christ. This is a church that officially disproves the gospel. Who is yelling this to the world? Where's that paper? Here it is now. Now we'll have some fun. Cardinal Jean-Claude Hollerich, a nice cardinal from Luxembourg, and is highly valued by Pope Francis. He could be one of the candidates for the Oscars. President of the European Episcopal Conference, and then General Speaker at the Synod for Synodality, where the Synodal Fathers discuss the path of the Synod. Do you understand? While the world precipitates, this cardinal has distinguished himself for some time. He is a cardinal who is preoccupied with diversity. That is, if you notice, this disgraceful and satanic church does not care at all about important issues. It does not care at all about those who live well and piously, carefully observing the commandments. You guys are bigots. You are outdated fundamentalists with museum faces, as Bergoglio states. No, diversity. And this Cardinal Hollerich is a holy man, really a holy man. This cardinal is preoccupied with diversity. Which are the diversities? Of course, gay and lesbians. This is the punctum dolens, the painful wound. So let's see, he has given an interview last October 24, 2022 for Osservatore Romano, which used to be a prestigious medium for dissemination that would allow the circulation of the official magisterium of the Church. Today, with the occupation of the Masonic powers by Satan in the Vatican, it has become, on the contrary, the official spreader of heresy. We will spare you on the most challenging parts. Question by Osservatore Romano. Cardinal Hollerich, there exists the problem of the adaptation of the pastoral, of the anthropological changes. His answer? Of course, I try as much as I possibly can. Always such a holy man. I try according to the labors pertaining to the role that I have to maintain a personal relationship with young people. I live with young people because, before being a cardinal, I was also a priest and a pastor. I constantly see that young people stop considering the gospel if they have the impression that we are discriminating against them. Look at how disgraceful they are. If you say to gay people that you cannot bless them, you are discriminating against them. You are a fundamentalist, out of touch. If you say that a gay couple cannot unite sexually because that is a sin, you are discriminating. If you say to a couple of adulterers, I cannot give you Holy Communion, you are discriminating. If you say to the president of an important nation who is an unabashed abortionist that you do not allow him communion, you are discriminating. I'm a pastor who does not discriminate. Do you see how they are out of touch? This is in fact satanic. For young people today, the highest value is to not be discriminating. On this topic, they get really mad. A few weeks ago, now look at the ability to underline the central point, which is do not discriminate. Look at the relapse. I met a girl who said to me, I want to leave the church because I'm a lesbian. And I asked her, do you feel you're discriminated because you're homosexual? She said, no, I'm not a lesbian. My best friend is. So it wasn't her, but another. I know my friend's suffering. I no longer want to be in this church that judges me. This, as the cardinal, has made me reflect much. Wretched that you are. Why don't you announce the gospel to her? Why don't you read her the gospel? Why don't you teach her what God wants? A pastor should teach what God wants. Otherwise, he's not a pastor. He is a wolf, a mercenary. Am I wrong? Are we not sent by God for the church's mandate that orders us ministers of the sacred, in the second degree of the sacred order, to announce the gospel and not our own ideas? Then he continues, as the next question is made by the Osservatore Romano. Listen, there's risks. Wishing an afterthought of official doctrine. Says the interviewer, according to you, how do you think you should answer? He should say, Jesus has said. Hollerich answers like this. Pope Francis said that blah, 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 blah. I've come back last Sunday from the tour, and I saw the interview with Cardinal Zuppi, on which I will comment in a minute. There was a meeting in Rome at St. 𝐥'Egidio, I believe the theme was building peace. He spoke for about 7 minutes and never once named any cardinal of the Roman Catholic Church, or Jesus, or the Gospel, in a symposium that was so important. Nothing. But 8 times he mentioned, in 7 or 8 minutes, Pope Francis. This is obvious because they have to promote and advance a heretical agenda which disproves the Gospel. They cannot nominate Jesus Christ, and so the transition is carried out. The new Messiah. Doesn't anyone realize this? No, Pope Francis is not culpable. And he says the point is frankly indecisive. And then, just to be brief, because we don't have much time left, Holodic states at a certain point that he does not believe in the possibility of blessing gay couples, but then he adds, in any case, we cannot leave the question unresolved. What does that mean? It is Bergoglio's language. It's the style of Amoris Laetitia. Say, but not say. Yes, but then no. No, but then yes. Yes, but also. This is Bergoglio's style. No, but. Holy Father, what do you say about this? No, but yes. Yes, but no, but also. Do you understand? It's the style of these accursed people. I say accursed because they have a great ability to manipulate consciences. For this purpose, they use the media and all the means of communication. At one point, they would announce the truth. Now they are promoting error. This is Satan in the Vatican. Moreover, I remind you that last year, on May the 10th, 2021, it was a Sunday in Germany. If I remember correctly, about 100 priests in different cities of Germany and within their parishes, and also a few bishops, blessed gay and lesbian couples at the altar. None of them have been excommunicated, as the law of the Church foresees. I, talking to you, have been excommunicated twice, and I still don't know why. But this is what happens. Whoever announces change, not on the part of the gospel because they cannot, but on the part of Pope Francis, is promoted. He's promoted. You know that last month the Belgian bishops have announced they have created a format in which the blessing of gay couples is already. And where is the church that intervenes? Yes, they are concerned only about Father Minutella, Father Gebhard, Brother Celestino, Father Enrico Bernasconi. They're not aware of these individuals. Good. Knowing that I could not talk about many because of limited time, the third relapse concerns one individual whom I'm very happy to talk about, the ecologist Zuppi. Yes, they say they've proposed for him to go on Paolo Bonolis' program to make Mother Nature to substitute that woman who comes down from the stairs. Cardinal Zuppi will come down dressed as Mother Nature. Here's a time in which young people, families, and society are immersed in the uttermost moral relativism. Practically most part of individual lives in mortal sin without even caring. What does Cardinal Zuppi do? He finds nothing better to say than, there's a need for conversion. This word is decisive. It's the key word of the Christian faith, isn't it? And then, at the beginning of the Gospel, convert and believe in the ethos. Believe in ecology. This is also a satanic move. I'll explain why. We need to understand things. That's why I've become so dangerous and twice excommunicated. First of all, converting until before the epic, heroic Cardinal Zuppi meant to change one's life, correct? Metanoneo. In Greek, metanous means to change one's views in the sense of accepting the logic of Christ and of the gospel. Therefore, ethos, means morality. Now the Masons are pushing to substitute conversion from the moral context to the ecological context. The ethos, only one letter changes from ethos to ecos. It is not most important that you be morally at your lowest, that you are morally a scoundrel, living in moral disarray. Sorry, the word almost came out of my mouth. And then there are those who are scandalized. But if you defend the trees in the Amazon rainforest, you are a saint. Do you understand? You are a saint. Last year, while we had the problem of the coronavirus, they asked Bergoglio not too long before, Holy Father, what worries you the most? His answer was, oh, well, the aquifers in the Congo and the deforestation of the Amazon rainforest. The 𝐸𝐾os is a well-thought-out substitution. Look, it seems trivial, but it is not. This is also a satanic substitution. All these applications that I am examining, saying that if you are not without wisdom, you will understand, really, that there is Satan, because it is a substitution of the gospel. The preoccupation lies in saving the planet. The question is the substitution of the 𝐸𝐾os with the ethos legitimate? Is it written somewhere? No, just as in the Bible, there is written clearly that God detests sin against nature. But they need to invent a new gospel for which they are really racing. It is a real spectacle, a curtain raiser. For example, the disappeared Monsignor, the Desaparecido Monsignor Galantino, has not found anything better to say at the World Youth Day in Poland when they asked the question, but how can we accept gay and lesbian couples if there is Sodom and Gomorrah? Do you know what Monsignor Galantino answered? Oh no, God has not punished them for their sin against nature. He has punished them because they did not welcome in immigrants. I really don't know. The immigrants came to us from the Dead Sea. Do you understand? From the steppes of Jericho, the poor Africans arrived asking for help. But there's another thing that must be considered in the ecological conversion, which is Masonic and not biblical, not evangelical nor Christian. And it is that which I'm about to tell you. The world, the environment, the 𝐸𝐾os, is not a hypostasis for us Christians. It does not possess a hypostatic content. It is the environment in which we find ourselves. Of course, it must be respected. But the fate of the planet, the final fate of the planet, is clearly stated in the book of Revelation, is ultimately in God's hands. So much that in the Apocalypse 21, verse 1, we read the new heavens and the new earth. Therefore, as some theologians say, which sadly are not taken into consideration any longer, every effort spent to save the planet is not biblical. It is not biblical. You need to respect, of course, nature. St. Francis said, brother sun, sister moon, praise to my Lord. But the aim of Freemasonry, the powerful lobbies in the Vatican and the Satanists, is to hypostasize, to deify creation. Therefore, here is Mother Earth, the Pachamama, and it is last week's news that three cardinals very close to Pope Francis, have taken part in the Pachamama rite. They invoked the Mayan deity, but now we are with declared idolatry. But we don't need to surprise ourselves. There is Satan. There is Satan in the Vatican. So now, my dear children, I will conclude. What can we make of all this? Can you think only about being in communion with this false church that is clearly satanic? No, certainly not. When all will be over, if the teaching church should tell me, Father Minutella, you've made a mistake in saying that the sacraments were not valid. Okay, I will say, but Your Holiness, can I say something? Yes, Father Minutella. Before I go up to the stake, Holy Father, I wanted to say that I did this to defend souls. In other words, I have become aware that the church teaches that we do not go to Mass with heretics. Today is a very difficult time to make this understood. It is like when I was a little child, my mom would tell me not to slide on the rusted slide because otherwise the wolf would come. Of course, the wolf wouldn't come, but that was the only way that my mom had to stop me from sliding on a rusted slide at my elementary school. Is that clear? So I said that there is a wolf. Then whoever does not want to listen should not listen. What can we do, my dear children? Either pray a lot, look towards Mary, and know that the Holy Mother of Fatima has promised the triumph of her Immaculate Heart. Bergoglio has been warned. I've been saying this for years, as you know, and I have not lost any enthusiasm in this prophetic passion. I will say it. Bergoglio, pack your bags. Go away from Rome as soon as possible. The Church belongs to Christ. The Holy Virgin proceeds towards you solemnly. But you, deceitful prophets of Satan, don't know what awaits you and your malicious father. May God be praised, and forward with Mary.
it be the shadows call will fly away. May it be